Okay. Okay. Hi, Dr. Amy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy New Year, Linda. Thank you for having me on today.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you. Yeah, we just had a couple of tech challenges, so it's always fun to start a live when your tech is like giving you stress, especially since we're going to talk about stress and the effect on your body and
Yes.
what you're so great at, which is helping people manage and reduce and get rid of, I think, pain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's trapped in their body from stress, and you have certain techniques to do that. So I kind of feel like I could use you right now.
Yes.
Stress is getting the technology on, but but before we jump into all of that, I would love for you to just introduce yourself, your
Sure.
background, and all that, and then we'll talk about stress.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Dr. Amy Novotny. Most people just call me Amy. And I received my doctorate in physical therapy, now about 12 years ago. And I started the traditional route. I've always been interested in life and, biology, all that stuff. And I did traditional sports orthopedics. And I began to dive into the nervous system, breathing. I was training for several marathons and trying to qualify for the Boston Marathon, which is a rigorous qualifying time. And during that process, I started playing with my own breathing, and I'm on a treadmill running at a very fast pace. And I started working with my breathing and figuring out that if I changed the way I breathe and the way I positioned my body, I could calm myself down. And in essence, I was calming the physical stresses that were on my body at that time. And what happened after that was actually quite amazing. I felt like all of a sudden, all the tension in my body went away. You know, the coyote and the roadrunner story, and the coyote and the roadrunner's running and its body's just sitting there. That's literally what I felt on the treadmill. I just felt like my legs and my arms were just moving, but I was just kind of in this zone of everything just seemed so calm. And so the other thing that came of that is those aches and runner's pains and tightness, it all went away too. So I knew I was onto something, but then it's a matter of, okay, well, I experienced something. Is this what everyone else experiences? And, maybe I'm just behind on the game and just didn't know that. And I started asking people, talking to people, working with clients and saying, okay, what is it that's going on? And most people had no clue what I was talking about. And like, of course I'm tight. Of course I have aches and pains and stuff. And so I started playing and experimenting with this, and people who are in chronic pain got better, where traditional methods didn't work. And then, after a couple of years, I started getting people out of major surgeries, knee replacement surgeries, back herniated disc surgeries, nerve injuries that weren't healing. They were healing faster. And I even was hired by a world famous bird photographer who was supposed to undergo a couple surgeries. I was hired by him to not have to go through those surgeries. And so I traveled around the world for 6 months, helping him, coaching him daily on how to change his nervous system to de-stress, to get out of pain, so he didn't have to have 2 significant surgeries. And after that, I started my own business called the Paber Institute. It stands for Pain Awareness Breathing Relief. And from there, I helped people with pain, started helping very high profile, well-known people who wanted to get out of pain when no one else could figure out what was going on. And it actually branched into helping the patients of different psychologists and psychiatrists who had gone through emotional trauma, abuse, or just couldn't manage the stresses of their day. I started helping their clients, and I provided a different way, a different modality for people to be able to heal themselves. And so now when I speak to people, I'm really in tune to talking about stresses and what it does to our body. We think about cortisol levels going up, but there's a lot more to it.
A lot more to it. And I really am so glad that you're kind of opening with that, because I definitely, before we get into your technique, I want to talk about that. I also want to tell you that Michelle Norris is saying hi. I don't know if you can see.
Hi. I can't see her. Hi, Michelle.
I didn't think you could see her, so I could see it. So yes, because what I do is help people get better from chronic health conditions, right? So autoimmunity, chronic fatigue, chronic pain. And it has become daily more and more apparent to me the stress, the emotional trauma, you can't get well when that stays trapped in the cells. You just can't. And it's a nervous system problem, right? The nervous system stays locked, stays in fight or flight. And I think across the board in our whole world of wellness, that's becoming more and more accepted and recognized and whatever. But I just love that that you have real techniques to help people.
Yeah, and a lot of times we're not even aware of what's happened to our body as a result of stresses. We hear about so many diseases that are related to stress, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes. We hear about that, but there's actual physical changes in the way our muscles work that actually change the way we can move and feel our body, and it locks us up. I was recently listening to a podcast, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's a great person to listen to. And he was talking about how, our thoughts and our emotions will actually embed themselves in our body. And that's exactly what I teach people all the time. He's been studying this and has a research behind it for, years and years. But it's great to hear someone who speaks about this on a wide scale and has such a large audience that's becoming more to the forefront, that when we take in a stressor, it can be something as simple as you have a pebble in your shoe and you can't get it out because you're not able to do it. It's a stressor that affects you, and it's the whole chain. And after a while, you may not feel the pebble because your nervous system has adapted.
Yes.
And then when you take that pebble out, it's not as if we spend time undoing what that nervous system had to do. Our nervous system habituated, and so there was a guarding aspect that goes on in our body. And if we're not aware of that and we don't recognize it and get out of it, that's a whole new nervous system that's set now with that guarded state. And it happens all over the place, all throughout life.
It really does. And the analogy of the stone in the shoe is great. And what I would invite people to do is really think about, put that into their body rather than just the image in their shoe. And when you get locked and a nervous system habituates the way you just so greatly explained it, now the nervous system can't do its job when a virus shows up, when a parasite shows up. Now the nervous system is so locked that it can't do that. And every cell in the body is affected.
Yeah, and to go along with that, if people think of it in terms of energy, if you imagine there are areas in our body where we store a protective energy, our armpits, the front of our chest, our low back, the front of our hips, those are areas that we guard and protect ourselves. And that's energy that if we guard and we learn to do that without thinking about it, we're using that energy all the time, just in a resting state. To keep ourselves on guard. That goes against your nervous system. It goes against your digestive system. It goes against your cardiovascular system. It doesn't serve you one bit, because you're taking this bulk of energy and saying, nope, I'm in fight or flight mode all the time. I'm going to store it there and I'm not going to let go. We're not even aware of that. It zaps us from energy. It zaps our focus, our ability to perform, our ability to sleep. And we just get into this chaos where we don't know what is up or down.
Yep. And to your point, then you're not digesting. So every day you're eating your meals, but you're not digesting well when the energy is over here locked up. And then you're not sleeping and resting well. You can't do rest and digest. So I just have to tell you, Laura Boudreau says hello.
Oh, hi, Laura. She follows along a lot. She's learned a lot in this past year.
Okay, good. Nice to have you, Laura. Yeah. So the energy that we need for the different things that our bodies are meant to do is now being zapped up with this locked system. And, so there's so much conversation, at least in my world, because I'm following people like you. So there's so much conversation about how to get the nervous system to calm down. So you have a very particular technique that you do with people, right?
Yeah. So there's many ways out there to calm our sympathetic nervous system into parasympathetic mode. And in the ideal world, we would try to find as many of those ways and use it to calm us down. So a lot of times we think about meditation, we think about breath work in general, we think about being out in nature, we think about healing our gut because that will calm us down because it changes our chemistry. We think about eliminating negative thought patterns. So all of these things are methods. And my unique twist on this is looking at the combination of breath work, and I do it from an anatomically different way than a lot of breath work out there that's very rhythmical or number oriented. I do it based on your anatomy because I pair that with your body position. So not a lot is talked out there about your body position and how that influences your fight or flight nervous system and your stress levels. Okay. And just to give an example, if you think about that perfect posture, if you think about what you're taught in school, maybe if you did sports, if you were in the military performing arts, that perfect posture is chest out, shoulders back, suck it up, be strong, be confident, be proud, have no self-doubt, hear me roar type thing. As soon as you put yourself in this, you can do it while you're sitting or while you're standing, you will feel your body tighten up. Without fail, pull that shoulders back, you'll feel things tighten up. You may not feel exactly where. Some people are more in tuned and are used to playing around with their body and can feel different aspects, but sometimes people can't. But you'll at least feel tightness. So what's happening is you are putting your body into a fight or flight mode, okay? Our body knows that when my chest is out, I am ready to act. If there's a gunshot, I guarantee you're not going to slump over and say, I'm going to go run away. Right. You're going to stick your chest out. You're going to pull your shoulders back. You're going to haul tushy out of the area. You're going to be on your tiptoes. You're going to be sprinting.
Right.
Same thing as fire, anything like that. So our body is patterned to think that if our chest is out, shoulders are back, and our gut is sucked up and in, that means we need to perform something that's in a heightened state.
Yes.
So that's useful. We obviously need that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this ability to do it. It's very useful in short periods of time where we need to take quick action. Yep. It is not designed to be our 24/7 position that we hold ourselves in because we're expending all of our energy, all of our resources. We can't rest because we're telling our brain to be in fight or flight mode, but then we're expending all of these resources, energy to stay in fight or flight mode. So we might eat more to be able to get the energy to keep in fight or flight mode because we position ourselves that way. But if we eat more and we're eating too much, our digestive system might not work. So then you have other digestive issues. So it can be this spiral.
Yep.
All because we want to stick our chest out, pull our shoulders back, suck up our gut, and create a flat back. To look good. And so it's not that we don't want to have a good posture. We obviously want our body in a position that it's designed to be in. I'm not saying you want to go slump and become, hunched over, but we want our rib cage down in a neutral position, which we have gone the opposite extreme in thinking we need to hinge our rib cage by lifting up the front so much and the low back becomes a hinge. So instead, we want the rib cage to drop down so that we can be in a neutral position so it's not fight or flight mode. Sometimes we have to get into a curled ball position so we're actually rounding our back to help us get to parasympathetic relaxation so we can rest, digest. So like a lot of people have constipation issues. Mm-hmm. So there's a position I work with people and get them in the mornings so that they're curled up so that they can go to the bathroom. Because in order to be able to help move your bowels, you need to be in a position of relaxation. That's why a lot of people use squatty potties now. They have that step stool that puts at the base of the toilet. They can put their feet up. It gets you more into a parasympathetic relaxation position to calm you and to get your bowels in the correct position to eliminate.
So what's interesting about that? It's like fetal position. It's like going back to, like the way that we're born into this world. And that's the most comfortable.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's why I tell people when many people are afraid of letting the rib cage drop down, their belly pop out, I say, look at toddlers. Before they even know how to listen to us adults, the ribs are down, their belly's out. And they're running around, they're roly-poly, they can do whatever they want. They can stick their leg over their head, doesn't matter. Because they haven't changed their position into one that creates inflexibility, restriction, pain, closed spaces, impingement.
Yeah.
They know better. Yeah.
Yeah. They know better about too much.
They do. I think that's why we all need kids in our lives, so we can actually learn how to be a better adult, taking those lessons back. But so the body position thing is one tool that we use to calm us down out of the fight or flight mode. It's something we all can work on. We can all change how much we use our back muscles. Most of us are back dominant, and we overuse those back muscles where that fight or flight nervous system lives. And so if you're trying to tighten your back up and straighten it out all the time, you're just crushing on that nervous system saying, okay, time to hurt myself, time to be tight, time to be locked up. So that's problematic. The other way we touch on is breath work. So we know that breathing, just getting oxygen, moving our lungs, all those things help to calm us down. Now, the push out there is, one, to have breathing calm us down. You can use rhythmic stuff like box breathing. But two, we're always shooting for getting our diaphragm involved in that breathing process, because there's a nerve, the vagus nerve, that goes through it that helps calm us down, basically, when it's stimulated. Now, I approach diaphragmatic breathing differently than a lot of people because I look at the anatomy and your physiology and how they work to actually support your diaphragm. So your diaphragm is a dome on top of some walls, okay? So your diaphragmatic walls. When you inhale, that dome drops down. That creates negative space so air can be vacuumed in, basically. And the air, as it gets vacuumed in, it expands your lungs. Your lungs can fill up that space and you have air. Then when you exhale, the diaphragm goes back up, you deflate the lungs, and we're in happy situation. Now, that works really well, and you can use your diaphragm really well if the walls of the diaphragm are strong and stable. So as that dome drops down, we need stable walls so you can get a really good contraction on that dome to create as much space as possible. If those walls are floppy and you try to go down and they're floppy and there's not supported, the dome can't contract down well.
Right.
So now the key is, what supports those walls? Well, it's your side abdominal muscles, okay? Your side abdominal muscles pull your ribs down. So I'll demonstrate. So your side abdominal muscles pull your ribs down, and when they're contracted, they provide a stable base for your walls of your diaphragm.
Okay.
So if we're walking around with our chest out, shoulders back, ribs flared up, perfect posture, all of a sudden I'm not contracting my side abs in the way they need to support the diaphragm. So when I'm up like this, they're not really turned on. They're not even really eccentrically turned on. They're just stretched. So when I breathe in, I have to lift up my chest, my shoulders, maybe my head, maybe use my back to get air in. I'm basically using anything attached to my ribs to lift the ribs out to create that negative space for air to flow in.
Gotcha. Yep.
And because I don't have side abdominal muscles that support the diaphragm. But now if I let my belly hang out, my ribs are dropped down, my side abs I can feel are pulling the ribs down. There's not that huge drop off. Now when I breathe in, you don't see me expand. I'll do it from the side. I'm going to breathe in. I just breathed into my lungs. I didn't have to lift up my ribs to get air in. So my diaphragm, there was enough space for my level of activity right now. There's enough space that when my diaphragm dropped down, it created negative space for air to flow in. Right. And I didn't need to expand my lungs anymore. I'm not running a race. So they expanded where they needed to. They pushed out generally all over. And then when I blow out, I deflate all over. It's just a gentle expansion. And then I deflate. So just by having my ribs down, I'll be able to support my diaphragm better and use it instead of using all the muscles attached to my rib cage and trying to lift up all the time. So it solves a lot of problems. By having my ribs down, belly out, I'm not using all of these accessory muscles in my upper trunk and back to lift up my rib cage to get air in. I'm also going to get a deeper breath because my rib cage is not elevated and I'm not breathing shallow up here, which stimulates the brainstem to tell me I'm in fight or flight mode.
Right.
The other benefit is now I'm truly using my diaphragm, so I'm stimulating the vagus nerve to calm me down. And the best part of breathing like that is because I'm going into a relaxation mode and I'm exhaling and dropping my rib cage, is I start to feel all over my body, muscles let go and muscles relax. And it's really powerful. I hear so often, well, I'd love to relax. I can't feel it. I don't know how to relax my shoulders. And I'll see people with their shoulders up here and then they're like, I can't relax them. Okay, let me try to relax them. Then they just pull them back, which gets them using their back muscles, and they haven't done a thing to relax them, and then their back muscles hurt. Instead, they need to learn how to drop their rib cage down, because the shoulders follow that rib cage, because your shoulder blade's sitting on the rib cage, so your shoulder's going to follow that. So I tell people, when your ears are up to your shoulders, don't yank your shoulders down. Learn to drop your rib cage down. And it's going to start with let your belly button go, so your rib cage has permission to drop down. Because if your belly is sucked up and in, your rib cage is going to be elevated. And guess what? It's going to stay that way.
Yep. And that's what everybody, I think, maybe even especially women, but maybe everybody was always holding in their stomach, right? Like not only the posture, but just like, I need my stomach to look flat, right? So because as you were doing it, I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, that was a big change. I just let my stomach out.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more anxiety ridden a person is, I see their stomach held in tighter, the ribs are held up higher. And I've seen that correlation. Obviously, I haven't had every case in the world, so there's probably abnormalities in that. But I see a strong correlation between people who have high anxiety and high stress levels, rib cage being high, gut sucked up and in. And then what happens is when your rib cage is forward and prominent, you start to get pressure right here in your breastbone or your sternum, whichever word you're familiar with. That pressure gets worse and worse. And then people say, I feel out of breath. I can never catch my breath. Well, what's happened is they're used to lifting up their rib cage higher and higher. They have no more reserves. They have nowhere to lift up.
Right.
Because they're fully not using their diaphragm. They've used only their rib cage to create space for air to be vacuumed in. They don't know how to use their diaphragm. And it's very, very scary. Of people who have chest pain, they go to doctors, they get a cardiology workup, they get a pulmonology workup, and they come back and nothing's wrong with them. They're like, but I can't breathe. I have this chest pain. Like, what is wrong with me? Right. And I'll tell them, it's the way you hold your body and the way you breathe. The two combined make a whole world of difference in all of our lives. Yeah. And we can shift out of it. That's the best part, is there is a solution.
That is the best part. It's so great, like how you put it all together, and and the way you explain it. I'm sure everybody can explain it. I have a master's in exercise physiology, so I was definitely like picturing what you were saying. But I think anybody can understand what you're saying. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And what else did I want to say? And it's so true, because our physiology and our emotions go hand in hand. Like even. I just sometimes in my work with people, I'll say, if you're sitting all the time, you may not have like the lower frequency emotions, but you've just been for 3 hours sort of sitting in the position that depression is. And now all of a sudden your emotions are taking a nosedive. So to get your frequency up, one of the best things you can do to your frequency, meaning your emotions, is change physiology. And that's what you're talking about, is the physiology affects the emotions, the emotions affect the physiology, and now your nervous system's turned on, your breathing is changed. Yeah. So amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. It really is. And kind of go with you on sitting positions. So this is different for everyone. A lot of times if we're working behind a desk all day, I'll catch people on the edge of their chair, they're stressed, they're just ramped up, they're fatigued, all of that. And so innately, if we think about sitting is a position of relaxation. We've turned it into an exercise because we haven't taken the time to exercise, or we're sitting too long, so we want it to be an exercise. But sometimes we've taken it too far and we sit at the edge of the chair all the time. And that's very detrimental because all of these changes I was talking about, how your body position affects your nervous system. If you're in that sitting position on the edge of a chair or sitting on a bouncy ball for a long period of time, it can be very, very detrimental to us because now our body, all it knows is that we're on. So tell people, sit all the way back in your chair. Let your low back relax into the chair back. Let your feet be on the floor. Feel the ground with your heels.
Okay.
Make sure, here's one of the most critical things, and I go over this with people time in, time out, and as soon as they change over, it's one of the biggest shifts that they can do. Your knees need to be above your hips or at your hip level. I prefer slightly above because as soon as you do that, it curls your tailbone under you, your back can turn off.
Yeah.
So if I'm writing or being creative, I seriously go sit on a sofa or a bed or somewhere, curl up into a ball, and I'm sitting there typing because now I am using all of my energy to go into my thought process of creation. I'm no longer using my energy to sit upright, to sit on the edge of a chair and to hold myself up and to create tension in my body. I'm not using my energy there. I wanted to pour into my work. Now, obviously, we can't do that for our work all the time. So that's why I say sit back in your chair, get rid of that lumbar support that shoves you into chest up position. Let your low back relax. Have your knees higher than your hips. And if you need to, put a step stool, put books under your feet, just anything to get them up. And you'll feel how you can relieve tension in your body. And that's energy you're expending. And here's the thing, a lot of people sit on the edge of their chair also to exercise and to lose weight. If you can calm your body down and just exist in calm, you'll actually lose more weight because you're not going to be ravenous because you're trying to find energy all the time. You can actually lose it.
Yeah, and you can't lose weight when you're in fight or flight. The metabolism for weight loss doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, the hormones that need to be produced for weight loss aren't being produced when you're in fight or flight. So we're working against ourselves. Well, yeah, I've got to get something. So when I moved back, I'm kind of short legs. So like my toes are touching the floor, but my heels can't touch the floor. So you're so obviously my knees are below my hips. I need to raise, get something up so my knees, so that angle, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I got
Yep, absolutely. So very, very critical. I mean, that's one of the most important things. I'll see people in chronic pain and I'll tell them, I'll go through this. They're like, okay, I'll do it. Talk to them again. Well, I'm kind of there. I say, okay, let me see your setup. And then we'll shift them, make their knees higher. I'm like, oh my God, that feels so much better. I say, okay, you have to do that. If you're out and about, obviously there are times where, you know, a lot of chairs are made for taller people. And so I'll say, if you have a purse, this is a great time for women who carry big purses. Put it under your feet, step right on top of it. It's great for you because then it lifts your knees up a couple inches. So, you know, big purses are great for that reason.
That's a good idea. I would, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can work with people remotely. Like you can, what do? Do they take a video of themselves moving, or you just like we are right now, look at them?
Yeah, so I actually do Zoom sessions with clients all over the world, internationally, all over the US. And so what we do is, you know, if they're on a laptop or iPad or a computer or a phone, we can do Zoom and then, you know, set the camera back and I can look at them. I watch them move. I walk them through different exercises and coach them on their breathing and changing how they use their anatomy and physiology to calm themselves down. It's so powerful. And what I'll often do is as I'm going through and, you know, evaluate first and then work through things with them, I record it so they can have a recording of it, but I also take screenshots so they can truly see what their body looks like. And it is shocking. We're not aware unless someone points it out to us because, you know, we're in our mind. We're not thinking about what does our body look like after we, you know, brush our hair in the morning. We don't know how we move. We don't know that until someone looks at us and helps us through that. So that's kind of what I do.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I want to book a session with you. I'm going to do that because I've really been working on that the parasympathetic, the emotional response, calm down. And it's taken me 50 years to realize how important that is. So, so I'm sure I'm not the only one who's saying, oh my God, I want to book a session with you. How do people do that? I'm going to put it in.
Yeah. So one of the best ways to do is send me an email. The reason I say that, if they email me, Amy, A-M-Y, at paberinstitute.com, P-A-B-R, institute.com. Send me an email. Let me know that they heard us talking on the Organic Health Journey, live stream. That way I know what I've told them already. And I do like a free 15-minute consult, because anyone I work with, I want to have a chat first to make sure it's the right fit. It's almost not really like an application process, but there is a screening process to make sure that they need what I can show them and that they're ready to do that. Because if they're not ready to go, it's, I don't want to waste their time and money, nor mine. So if they could email me, you'll have a little chat. We'll actually have a Zoom chat so that get introduced to what I do, and we'll see, if it's the right fit, and then we can go from there. And, we do a full 90-minute evaluation, really dive in deep. And then at that first session, we'll actually teach them stuff that they start implementing right away.
Awesome. And how many sessions do people usually work with you? Is it kind of depend on how much they're practicing and putting it in?
Yeah, it depends on how much they're practicing, how much they can sense, if they have the ability to sense, how much they're like a go-getter in terms of they like to do things on their own, or if they need more guidance, how many conditions we're working on, what are the layers? If there's abuse and trauma and chronic pain, is there one chronic pain spot or two? Are they going for surgery? And this has been, long-standing. So it really depends on that. Sometimes people get done in a few sessions. Sometimes people are longer. Sometimes people finish up with what we're working on and then say, okay, I want to work on this. So we'll go longer. So it really depends. And in our first session, I find out what makes a person tick and what their goals are. What are we getting them back to? Are we getting them back to skating? Are we getting them so they don't have a knee replacement or a hip replacement surgery? Or are we getting them out of nerve pain or out of stress or anxiety? What is it that makes them tick? And then I need to see what parts of their body do we need to adjust and shift internally that they control to get them out of that situation. And it's all about how well I communicate to them to get them to sense and feel things differently so that they can control it. And it's all of their skills. And they go from there.
That's so great. I as I said a couple times, like I'm working on that, just diving deeper and deeper. And so I've been doing some energy work myself, and I'm going to be doing more of that with my clients. But what I think is so interesting, and I think it's what I'm hearing with you as well, you don't have to remember the trauma. It's not about going back into the trauma. Like people that therapy does that, and I'm not saying anything about therapy that serves whatever it does, but this isn't about going back. You can recognize there's emotional trauma and deal with it and release it without having to go back and relive it and dig it up and put somebody in a traumatic state. That's not what we're doing, right?
Absolutely. So we don't have to just dive into it or discuss it or anything, but just be aware that there is trauma. And you mentioned a little bit before, like the armpits are they store a lot of trauma. So there are different positions and things I do with people to help them release their armpits, and they'll feel the muscles release. And as they're going through something, a different position or where they're feeling the muscles let go, people will have emotional releases and they feel so much better afterwards. Like, oh gosh, I just felt like this layer come off. Yeah. And so that helps if they're going through psychological treatments, with a counselor or a therapist. It really helps them progress on all of those skills and trainings that they're going through with that other healthcare practitioner, because we're releasing the physical hold where that memory is stored, and they didn't even know that they were holding it there. So that's where it's really powerful.
Right. I can see that. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you so much. I feel
Yeah.
like you should come on every week because people need to hear about this.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely
Thank you.
do that again. But I guess you can't see the comments, but I put Amy at Paber, Paber
Uh-huh.
Institute.com.
Uh-huh.
People
Yes.
can email there. You'll give them a
Mhm.
free consult
Yeah.
first to see
Yeah.
if yes, what their goals are a match
Yeah.
for what you do. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's to make it more successful for everyone involved. I find that very helpful. So they're on the same page. They understand what's going on. Um,
Makes
just,
sense.
yeah, absolutely. So I really appreciate this. And thank you for letting me share with your tribe and your followers, because it's a great passion of mine, 'cause it's helped so many people.
You know what? Thank you for sharing it. I know, we've known each other for a while now, and I know how passionate you are and that you do really help people. I've had clients work with you, so I
Yeah.
know that, you know, the kind of results that you can get. I just felt my belly go out, and I'm like, "Ooh, that feels good to see let my belly up so I can."
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm just really all about finding anything that makes a difference in the area of health. Like, how can we live better? We're meant to
Yeah.
be living well on this planet. That's how God intended. And
Yeah.
so we're not getting the job done, and we just need to like find the tools to do that. So thank you.
Yeah, completely agree. So really appreciate what you do. And, I know this is a great complement to what you do in helping people with the digestive system. So thank you for
It
sharing
is.
all that.
You're welcome. Okay, we're gonna say good night. Well, for me, it's good night. What time is it where
Yes,
you are?
it's 5:40, so it's nighttime.
Okay,
It's
it's time for dinner for you.
evening. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Amy, and
Thank
we will
you.
talk again soon.
Sounds great. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.